I met a woman after my wife died, and my son decided that at 68 I had no right to love anyone again. So I arranged for him to sit in front of a lawyer, a notary, and his own wife, and watch me erase his future from my will in real time. By the time we walked out of that office, he finally understood that my life is mine, not his investment plan. My name is Henry. I'm 68, a widower, and a grandfather of 3. I live in a small ranch house in suburban Ohio. Nothing fancy, but my late wife, Diane, and I paid off the mortgage years ago. I spent 40 years as an electrician with the city, climbing poles and crawling through basements so my family never had to worry about the lights going out. My son, Mark, is 40. He lives about 20 minutes away with his wife, Jenna, and their 2 kids, Lily and Josh. He works in finance. He's good with numbers. He likes control even more. A year after Diane died, I met Elaine. We bumped into each other at the grocery store, of all places, fighting over the last decent pack of strawberries. She was 64, silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a faded Ohio State sweatshirt. She laughed, offered to split the berries with me, and then somehow we ended up sharing coffee in the little cafe by the pharmacy. She was a retired nurse, widowed, loved gardening, puzzles, and those true crime shows my daughter-in-law likes. She listened when I talked about Diane, really listened, and didn't flinch when I cried a little telling her about the hospital and the quiet after. We started having coffee once a week. Then it became dinner. Then walks in the park. By the time fall leaves started to turn, I realized I was looking at my phone like a teenager, waiting for her texts. That's when I told Mark. We were in his kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, football on the TV, Lily and Josh building Lego towers on the floor. I was chopping tomatoes for salsa, trying to figure out how you tell your grown son that you've met someone new when you still wear your wedding ring. "Hey, son," I said, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "I've been seeing someone. Her name's Elaine." He didn't even look up from his phone. "Seeing someone how?" he asked. "Dating," I said. "We've been spending time together. She's important to me." He put his phone down slowly, like he was setting a bomb on the table. "Dad, are you serious?" "Yes," I said. "Very." He stared at me for a long moment, jaw clenched. "And you thought this was appropriate?" he asked. "After Mom?" My stomach dropped. "Your mother's been gone almost 3 years," I said quietly. "I miss her every day. But I'm still here, Mark. I'm still alive." He laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Elaine," he repeated, like the name was something sour. "What does she want?" "She wants companionship," I said. "Like I do." "Sure," he said. "And your pension, and the house, and whatever you've got in savings." "Dad, I work in finance. I see this every day. Old widowers get taken advantage of by nice women all the time." I felt my ears burn. "Elaine's not like that," I said. "You haven't even met her." "I don't have to," he snapped. "You're vulnerable. You're grieving. And some woman shows up just in time to comfort you? Come on." Jenna walked in, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" she asked. "Dad's dating," Mark said. "Some woman named Elaine." Jenna's eyes widened. "Oh," she said. "Wow. That's unexpected." "Unexpected is one word for it," Mark said. "Irresponsible is another." I looked at my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the boy I'd held when he broke his arm at 10. Now he stared at me like I was a reckless teenager sneaking out after curfew. "I just wanted you to know," I said. "That's all." He picked up his phone again. "Consider me informed," he said flatly. That was the beginning. The first real slap came a couple of weeks later. Elaine had invited me to a small neighborhood potluck at her place. I mentioned it to Mark when he called, neutral as possible. There was a pause on the line. I don't want you going over there, he said. I thought I'd misheard. I beg your pardon, I said. I said I don't want you going to this woman's house, he repeated. You barely know her. We've been seeing each other for months, I said. I know her. You think you do, he replied. Look, Dad, you're lonely. I get it. But I'm not going to sit by and watch some stranger worm her way into our family and your assets. Our family, I repeated slowly, and my assets. You know what I mean, he said. You've got the house, the pension, the life insurance. That's supposed to provide security for the kids someday. You start playing house with someone, getting married, putting her name on things, and you're gambling with their future. Something cold settled in my chest. So, I'm not allowed to be happy, I said. That it? I'm saying, he replied, be realistic. You're almost 70. You don't need a girlfriend. You need stability. Your grandkids need stability. I am stable, I said. Elaine doesn't change that. Not yet, he muttered. The second incident was uglier. Elaine and I were at a diner for breakfast. We'd just finished our pancakes when she stepped away to use the restroom. As soon as she left the table, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mark. Dad, where are you? I snapped a quick photo of my coffee and the half-eaten pancakes. Having breakfast with Elaine, I typed. At Sandy's diner. No more than 10 minutes later, Mark walked in, still in his weekend gym clothes, jaw tight. I stared at him, stunned. What are you doing here? I asked. Just checking in, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. Wanted to meet this person. Elaine returned, drying her hands on a paper napkin. She froze when she saw him sitting there. Oh, she said, offering a tentative smile. You must be Mark. I've heard a lot about you. He didn't offer his hand. Have you? He said. I'd love to know what. Her smile faltered. Just that you're a good father, she said, and that the grandkids adore you and Jenna. He leaned back, arms crossed. And what have you told him about yourself? He asked. That I'm a retired nurse, she said, trying to stay calm. Widow. 2 grown daughters. 3 grandkids. Any bankruptcies? He asked. Bad debts? Exes with restraining orders? Sugar daddy profiles we should know about? My face went hot. Mark, that's enough, I said. Elaine's cheeks flushed, but she kept her voice even. I understand you're protective, she said. If my daughters were worried about me, they might do the same. But I can assure you, I'm not after your father's money. He smirked. That's exactly what someone after his money would say, he replied. She stood up slowly, placing her napkin on the table. Henry, she said gently, I'm going to give you 2 some privacy. Call me later. She walked out, shoulders stiff. Mark watched her go like an auditor watching someone leave a meeting with empty hands. What is wrong with you? I hissed when she'd gone. What's wrong with me? He shot back. What's wrong with you? Letting some stranger manipulate you like this. She is not manipulating me, I said. He leaned in. Dad, I know you think you're in control, he said, but you're not. You're grieving, you're lonely, you're vulnerable. You're the exact demographic scammer's target. Someone has to look out for you since you clearly won't. I didn't realize I needed a babysitter, I said. He shrugged. You do now, he said. And I'm it. The third time he went further than words. A couple of weeks later he offered to drive me to what he called a routine checkup. My primary doctor had retired, and he'd recommended a great new geriatric specialist near his office. I didn't think much of it. My knees ached and my blood pressure liked to flirt with the upper numbers, so a checkup sounded reasonable. We sat in the exam room while the doctor, a man in his early 50s with a soft voice, asked me questions. Any memory problems, Mr. Callahan? He asked. Just the usual forgetting where I left my glasses, I joked. Mark jumped in. He's been repeating himself a lot, he said. Forgetting appointments, making questionable choices. My head snapped toward him. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. The doctor kept writing. "Any falls? Confusion while driving?" he asked. "No," I said, "and I still do my own taxes." "Dad," Mark said, "this isn't about pride. We just want to make sure you're safe." Safe. The word tasted like a cage. When the doctor stepped out, I turned on my son. "Why are you exaggerating?" I asked. "I'm not," he said. "I'm concerned, and I wanted a medical professional to see it before things go too far." "Too far how?" I pressed. He hesitated. "Before someone goes after your assets," he said, "or you start signing things you don't understand." And then I understood. He wasn't just trying to scare me about Elaine. He was laying the groundwork for something bigger: control, power of attorney, maybe even guardianship. He was building a case that I was incompetent. The last straw came on a Sunday afternoon in April. Elaine had invited me to her church's spring luncheon. It was simple: folding chairs, pastel tablecloths, ham and potato salad. The kind of thing Diane would have loved. I invited Mark and his family to join us afterwards for coffee at my house, hoping to ease the tension. Elaine baked a lemon cake. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes, nervous but hopeful. They were 40 minutes late. When they finally pulled up, Mark stepped out of the car already frowning. Jenna followed, looking uncomfortable. The kids barreled into the house ahead of them, asking for snacks. Elaine greeted them softly. "Hi, Mark," she said. "Hi, Jenna. It's nice to finally have you over." Mark looked right past her. "Kids, go play in the backyard," he said. "Jenna, give us a minute." She bit her lip and nodded, shepherding Lily and Josh out sliding glass doors. He shut the door behind them and turned to me. "This has to stop," he said. I felt my jaw tighten. "What has to stop?" I asked. "This," he said, waving a hand between Elaine and me. "The relationship, the fantasy, whatever you want to call it." Elaine straightened. "Excuse me?" she said. "You're confusing him," Mark said, addressing her like she wasn't in the room. "He's vulnerable, emotional. He hasn't processed Mom's death properly. This isn't about you. It's about his mental health." "I am right here," I said. He ignored me. "And if you really cared about him," he continued, "you'd step back for his own good." Elaine looked at me, eyes shining. "Henry," she said quietly, "do you want me to step back?" I took a breath. "No," I said. "I don't." Mark snorted. "Of course you don't," he said. "That's how manipulation works. You get attached and suddenly you can't imagine life without them." Something inside me snapped. "Son," I said carefully, "you're crossing a line." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "No, I'm drawing one," he said. "Either you end this, or I will. I'm talking to a lawyer this week. We're going to get some protections in place before she drains you dry. Guardianship, financial controls, whatever it takes." For a second, I couldn't breathe. "You're going to try to have me declared incompetent," I said. "If that's what it takes to protect you and the kids' inheritance, yes," he said flatly. Elaine put a shaking hand to her mouth. "Mark," she whispered, "do you hear yourself?" He turned on her. "And you," he said, "are never to contact my father again after today. No calls, no visits, no texts. If you care about your own reputation, you'll disappear." The room went quiet. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The lines at the corners of his eyes, the expensive watch, the tightness in his jaw. The boy I'd raised was gone. In his place stood a man who saw me as an asset to be managed. That was the moment I decided I was done being managed. "All right," I said. Mark smirked, thinking he'd won. "All right," he repeated. "So you agree?" "I agree," I cut in, "that things are going to change." He frowned. "What does that mean?" he asked. I smiled for the first time that afternoon. "You'll see," I said. Sooner than you think. That night, after Elaine went home and the house was quiet, I pulled out the worn blue folder from my desk drawer, the one labeled Important Papers in Diane's neat handwriting. Inside were copies of my will, the deed to the house, pension paperwork, bank account information, and the life insurance policy I'd taken out 20 years ago. I stared at the line that named Mark as my primary beneficiary and executor. I thought about his words: guardianship, financial controls, protecting the kids' inheritance. I realized something simple and painful. He didn't see my money as a gift. He saw it as his. I had less power than I thought in some ways. My body was slower, my memory occasionally fuzzy, but I still had paper, property, choices. I realized I had more power than he thought. So I made a plan. First, I called an elder law attorney. Not the cheerful guy Mark had recommended last year when he was pushing me to update my documents. A different one, recommended by Elaine's friend from church, a retired social worker. Second, I scheduled a meeting with my credit union. Third, I called my old union buddy, Sam, who now worked part-time as a notary and had a prodigious talent for reading people. There were risks. Mark might explode and cut me off. I might see less of the grandkids for a while. He might try to fight the changes legally. But there was a bigger risk in doing nothing, living the rest of my life as if I were already dead, just a resource to be extracted. I wasn't ready to live like that. A few days later, I sat in the attorney's office across from a woman in her early 60s named Marjorie. Her office walls were lined with diplomas and photos of grandchildren. "Tell me what's going on, Mr. Callahan," she said. So I did. I told her about Diane's death, about Elaine, about Mark's comments and the doctor visit, about the not-so-subtle hints about guardianship and protecting my assets. She listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes. When I finished, she folded her hands. "You're not the first parent who's come in with this situation," she said. "Adult children worried about inheritance can become overzealous." "That's one word for it," I muttered. "First question," she said. "Do you feel you're of sound mind?" "Yes," I said. "I agree," she replied. "You're articulate, organized, and you brought more documentation than most of my younger clients." "Second question, what do you want?" I thought about it. "I want to live my life without being punished for it," I said. "I want to be free to see Elaine. I want my grandkids provided for. And I want my son to understand that my money is not his money until I'm in the ground. If then." She smiled slightly. "We can work with that," she said. Here's what we did. We drafted a new will. In it, I left the house and a portion of my savings to a trust for my grandchildren, Lily, Josh, and whatever future siblings might come along. The trust would be managed by a neutral third-party trustee, not Mark. The funds could only be used for education, medical needs, or a first home. Not boats. Not risky syndicates, or whatever else he might dream up. I left Elaine the right to live in my house for 10 years after my death if she wished, or a lump sum if she chose to move elsewhere. Enough to keep her secure, not enough to make headlines. I left Mark a modest bequest, contingent on one thing, that he had no active legal actions against me, no guardianship, no financial control petitions at the time of my death. We also drafted durable powers of attorney and healthcare proxies. In them, I named Marjorie's firm as backup, but primary authority went to two people: my younger sister Patty, who lived an hour away and had always had a level head, and my union buddy Sam, who knew my wishes and had zero patience for nonsense. Mark's name was nowhere on them. Finally, and this was my favorite part, we added a clause that if any heir contested the will without clear evidence of fraud or duress, their share would be reduced to $1. $1? I asked, amused. "It's symbolic," she said. "But trust me, lawyers understand symbolism." Next, I visited the credit union. I moved a chunk of my savings into a separate account payable on death to Elaine. Nothing that would hurt my day-to-day life, but enough that I knew she'd be okay, even if Mark decided to be ugly about things. I removed Mark as an emergency contact on my financial accounts and replaced him with Patty. Then I asked the membership officer a few questions about fraud alerts, unauthorized account access, and what would happen if someone tried to present themselves as my guardian without proper court orders. They assured me there were protocols. I went home feeling lighter. The last step of my plan was the risky one. I called Mark and told him I'd thought a lot about what he said, that I wanted to make things official and protect the family, that I'd scheduled an appointment with a lawyer to discuss my will and powers of attorney, and I wanted him there. On the other end of the line, he sounded relieved for the first time in weeks. "Dad, that's great," he said. "You won't regret this." "Oh, I'm counting on it," I said. The appointment was set for the following Thursday at 3 p.m. That day, I made coffee for Elaine at my kitchen table and told her the bare bones of my plan. Not all the details, it wasn't her burden to carry, but enough that she understood why I'd asked her to stay away from the meeting. "Are you sure you want to poke this bear?" she asked softly, fingers wrapped around her mug. "The bear's already in my kitchen," I said. "I'm just giving him a mirror." She smiled sadly. "Whatever happens," she said, "I'm not walking away because your son doesn't approve. I need you to know that." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I do," I said, "and I'm grateful." At 2:45, I arrived at Marjorie's office. Sam was already there, leaning against the wall in the waiting room, his notary stamp in his shirt pocket. Patty sat beside him, clutching her purse like it might run away. "You ready, kid?" Sam asked. "I'm 68, I said. "Still my junior apprentice," he replied. "Let's go light a fire." At 3:05, Mark and Jenna rushed in, slightly out of breath. He was in a pressed shirt and tie, carrying a leather portfolio. She wore a cautious smile. "Dad," he said, nodding at me, "I'm glad you took this seriously." "I am serious," I said. We all filed into the conference room. Marjorie greeted everyone professionally, then closed the door. "Mr. Callahan has asked you here today as a courtesy," she began. "He's updating his estate planning documents and wanted his family informed." Mark nodded, already taking notes. "That's good," he said. "My biggest concern has been making sure his assets are protected from outside influences." Marjorie's eyes flicked to me briefly, then back to him. "Of course," she said. "Why don't we go through the documents together?" She started with the healthcare proxy and general power of attorney. "As of today," she said, "Henry is appointing his sister, Patricia Moore, and his friend Samuel Ortiz as his healthcare and financial agents in the event he becomes incapacitated." Mark blinked. "I'm sorry," he said. "I thought I'd be taking on that role." Marjorie smiled politely. "Henry has decided he doesn't want to put that burden on you," she said. "He prefers agents who are not financially dependent on him or expecting to inherit from him. It helps avoid conflicts of interest." Jenna shifted in her seat. Mark's jaw tightened. "So I have no say?" he asked. "You have a say as his son," Marjorie replied. "Just not legal authority over his decisions unless a court decides otherwise." His eyes snapped to me. "Dad?" he demanded. I met his gaze calmly. "I don't need you to run my life," I said. Next came the will. Marjorie slid copies across the table. "As you can see," she said, "Henry's primary concern is providing for his grandchildren and ensuring his partner is not left destitute." "Partner?" Mark repeated. "Elaine," I said. He clenched his fists on the table but said nothing. "The house and certain liquid assets will pass into a trust," Marjorie continued. "The beneficiaries are Henry's grandchildren. The trustee is an independent fiduciary firm." "Not me," Mark said. "Not you," she agreed. "Henry wants you free to live your life without the pressure of managing your father's estate." I saw a vein pulsing in his temple. "And my share?" he he asked. Marjorie flipped a page. You receive a cash bequest, she said. She named the amount, not enormous but far from insulting, conditional upon your having no pending legal actions against Henry at the time of his death. Mark stared at her. Legal actions? He repeated. Guardianship petitions, demands for financial control, attempts to overturn his chosen agents, she clarified. If you file anything like that without clear medical evidence of incompetence, the bequest is reduced to $1. $1? He spluttered. Sam chuckled under his breath. It's called a no-contest clause, Marjorie said smoothly. Perfectly legal. Very common in situations where there's concern about undue pressure. Undue pressure from whom? Mark shot back. I leaned forward. From you, I said. From anyone who thinks my money is theirs to manage while I'm still breathing. The room went very quiet. Dad, he said slowly, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious, I replied. You threatened to put me under guardianship because I dared to date someone. You tried to paint me as incompetent to a doctor. You've talked about my assets as if they already belong to you and the kids. I love you. I love them. But I am not a walking trust fund who happens to have a pulse. Jenna swallowed hard. Mark, she whispered, is that true? He glared at me. I was trying to protect him, he said, from being scammed. Marjorie folded her hands. This plan does protect him, she said. It also protects his right to choose his relationships without financial threats hanging over his head. He turned to her. You don't understand the whole situation, he protested. This woman... Elaine, I said. Her name is Elaine, and she is not on trial here. She doesn't get a dime, he snapped. Actually, Marjorie corrected gently, she receives a life estate in the home or a modest lump sum. Henry has the legal right to make that decision. She's replacing Mom, he shouted, voice cracking. There it was, the real wound. Son, I said quietly, no one will ever replace your mother. Not for you, not for me. But my options at this point in life are simple. Be lonely until I die so you feel comfortable, or take a chance on being happy again, knowing some people might not like it. He looked at me like I'd betrayed him. You'd choose her over your own son? He whispered. I shook my head. It's not a competition, I said, but I will choose myself over your control, every time. Sam slid the pen toward me. Time to sign, Hank, he said. My hand shook a little as I signed each page. Patty and Sam signed as witnesses. Sam added his notary seal with a satisfying thump. Mark watched, color draining from his face. Each stamp was a door closing on the future he'd assumed was guaranteed. When it was done, Marjorie gathered the papers. These are now legally binding, she said. Copies will be stored with my firm and provided to the appropriate parties. Henry, you'll take your originals home. I suggest you keep them somewhere secure. Mark stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. This is unbelievable, he said. You're letting some ambulance-chasing lawyer and a gold digger steal our inheritance. Marjorie's eyebrows rose. Careful, Mr. Callahan, she said. I'm right here. He jabbed a finger at me. You're going to regret this, he said. When she leaves you, when you're alone in a nursing home, when you need help. I needed help now, I said quietly. And instead of offering it, you offered paperwork to take my decisions away. Jenna stood too, tugging his sleeve. Mark, she said, voice tight. Enough. We need to go. He jerked away from her, but after a moment he stormed out, the door slamming behind him. Jenna lingered for a second, eyes shiny. I'm sorry, she whispered. He's scared. And stubborn. So am I said. Apparently. She gave me a sad smile and followed him out. We sat there for a moment in the aftermath. Sam clapped a hand on my shoulder. Well, he said, That was a show. Patty wiped her eyes. "You okay, big brother?" she asked. I took a breath and realized to my surprise that my chest felt lighter. "Yes," I said. "For the first time in a long time, I think I am." The consequences started almost immediately. For the first week, Mark didn't call. Jenna sent a few short texts, mostly about the kids, a picture of Lily's school project, a video of Josh scoring a goal at soccer, but it was clear she was caught in the middle. Elaine and I saw each other quietly. We went to the park, the diner, the garden center to pick out tomato plants. I slept better than I had in months, knowing that whatever storm Mark stirred up, my essentials were protected. Then, one Saturday morning, the storm hit. I was trimming the bushes in front of the house when Mark's SUV pulled up too fast. He climbed out, face stiff. "Dad," he said. "Mark," I replied. He marched up the path, waving a thick envelope. "Do you know what this is?" he demanded. "Looks like an envelope," I said. "It's a packet from Mom's old insurance," he said. "Updated beneficiary information. They sent me a copy as your emergency contact." "Ah," I said. "Yes, they're updating their records." "Updating," he repeated. "You took me off as beneficiary." "I rearranged things," I said. "Some funds go to the grandkids' trust now, some to Elaine, some to you." "Some," he echoed. "Some isn't good enough after everything I've done for you?" I set down the clippers slowly. "What you've done for me," I repeated. "You mean letting me babysit the kids, driving me to a doctor who thought I was senile, and trying to convince a lawyer to put my life under your thumb?" He flinched. "I paid for half this house's repairs after the pipe burst," he shot back. "I helped you refinance the car. I checked on you after Mom died. I've been here." "I never said you hadn't," I said. "But those were acts of love, not investments. There's no guaranteed return on them. That's how family works." He shook his head. "You're choosing a woman you've known for a year over your own blood," he said. "I'm choosing to stop being punished for wanting to live," I said. "And I'm choosing to protect your children from your worst impulses, just like I tried to protect you from mine when you were little." He stared at me, breathing hard. "So that's it?" he asked. "You've written me out?" "I've written you in with conditions," I said. "Conditions any decent son wouldn't have a problem with." He looked at the envelope, then back at me. "You know what?" he said. "Fine. Do whatever you want. Just don't expect me to pick up the pieces when she breaks your heart and you've burned every bridge." He turned and stalked back to the SUV. "Mark," I called. He paused but didn't turn around. "I will always be your father," I said. "There will always be a place for you at my table. But I will not hand you the keys to my life just because you're my son. You want to be in my will in more than name? Be in my life in more than criticism." He stood there for a moment, shoulders rigid, then got in the car and drove off. Weeks passed. The silence stretched between us like an unfamiliar road. It hurt, but not in the frantic way it once did. The panic was gone. What remained was a dull ache and a clearer view. In that time, something unexpected happened. Jenna started bringing the kids over on her own. At first it was, "We were in the neighborhood," and "The kids wanted to see Grandpa." Then it became every other Saturday. One afternoon, as the kids played with sidewalk chalk in my driveway, Jenna joined me on the porch swing. "He's still angry," she said quietly, watching Lily draw a crooked purple cat. "He feels like you don't trust him." "I do trust him," I said, "to behave exactly the way he has been." She smiled sadly. "He's scared," she said. "Not of losing your money, of losing you. He doesn't know how to say that without sounding like this." "He has a funny way of showing it," I said. She hesitated. "He also doesn't know what to do with the idea of you with someone who isn't his mom," she said. "It makes him feel like her memory is being replaced, which it isn't. I know that. You know that. He doesn't." I watched my grandson draw a lopsided sun. Do you think he'll ever get there? I asked. She thought about it. If he thinks he's about to lose you for real, she said, he might. A couple of months later, that's exactly what happened. Not physically. Legally. I decided to take one more step. Elaine and I had been talking quietly about the future. Neither of us needed to get married. We were both on Social Security, with our own health insurance complications. But we wanted something more than casual. So I put the house into something Marjorie called a transfer on death deed. It meant simply this: I still owned it and controlled it while I was alive. When I died, it would automatically transfer to the grandkids' trust, with a legal note that Elaine had the right to live there for up to 10 years if she chose. There would be no probate fight over the house, no way for Mark to swoop in and try to force Elaine out for the estate. I didn't tell him. The county recorder's office did. One Saturday morning my doorbell rang, hard. I opened it to find Mark on the porch again, this time holding a printout from the county website. "What is this?" he demanded, thrusting it at me. I glanced at it. My name. The words, transfer on death deed. The grandkids' names, Elaine's life estate clause. "It's a deed," I said. "You went behind my back and did this," he said. "Behind your back?" I repeated. "You mean I exercised my legal right to manage my property without asking my adult son's permission?" "Yes. Guilty as charged." He ran a hand through his hair. "You've locked me out of everything," he said. "The house, the insurance, the accounts. You've given her more say over your life than your own son." "You had your chance," I said quietly. "More than one. You could have supported me, met Elaine with an open mind, trusted that I wasn't suddenly an idiot because I was lonely. Instead, you tried to set me up as incompetent. You threatened guardianship. You talked about my assets like chips at a poker table." He sank down on the porch step, shoulders slumped. "I don't know how to do this," he muttered. "Any of it. Mom dying, you dating, money, all of it." I sat down beside him. "You start," I said, "by listening more than you talk, by asking instead of assuming, by remembering that I changed your diapers and stayed up with you when you had the flu. So maybe, just maybe, I deserve the benefit of the doubt." He was silent for a long time. "What if something happens to you?" he asked finally. "What if she convinces you to sign everything over to her and then she leaves? What if we lose the house, the trust, everything?" "What if I walk out the door tomorrow and get hit by a bus?" I countered gently. "What if your firm collapses? Or Jenna gets sick? Or Lily decides to be a drummer, and you can't stand the noise? We can't live in the land of what-ifs, Mark. All we can do is make decisions based on the people we are today." He stared at the printout, the paper shaking slightly in his hands. "Can we change it back?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not to what it was," I said. "And honestly, I wouldn't, even if I could. I'm not going to dangle inheritance like a leash. You and I have to learn how to be father and son without money between us, like a referee." He let out a long breath. "What do you want from me?" he asked. I thought about that carefully. "I want you to meet Elaine," I said. "Really meet her. Not as a threat, not as a gold digger, but as a woman who lost her husband and is trying to figure out this late-life mess like the rest of us." He made a face. "And if I don't?" he asked. "Then you don't," I said. "And we see each other less. That would break my heart, but not enough to hand you back a gun you already aimed at my head once." He flinched. "That's what guardianship felt like," I added, "in case you were wondering." A week later, Mark called. "Dad," he said, voice awkward, "is Elaine free on Sunday?" "She might be," I said. "Why?" He sighed. "Lily has a school concert," he said. "They want all the grandparents there. It'd be weird to exclude her if she's going to be around. Maybe we could all go. Together." My throat tightened. "I'll ask her," I said. "Thank you." On Sunday, I watched my granddaughter toot her way through a beginner band piece while Elaine squeezed my hand. Jenna smiled, and Mark sat stiffly on Elaine's other side, shoulders up around his ears. During intermission, Lily ran over. "Grandpa," she cried, "is this your friend?" "This is Elaine," I said. "She's very special to me." Lily looked her up and down in the frank way only kids can. "Do you like puzzles?" she asked. Elaine laughed. "I love puzzles," she said. That was all it took. The rest of the night, Lily chattered at her about school, books, and a jigsaw puzzle with kittens I'd given her last Christmas. Later, in the parking lot, Mark cleared his throat. "She seems nice," he said grudgingly. "She is," I said. She reminds me of Mom a little," he added, "the way she fussed about you wearing a jacket." I smiled. "Your mother would haunt me if I caught pneumonia," I said. "Elaine's just picking up where she left off." He studied me for a moment. "I'm still not comfortable with all the legal stuff," he said. "The deeds, the trust, the clause about me getting $1 if I go to court." "I know," I said, "but I'm sleeping at night. That has to count for something." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "Are any of those things changeable?" he asked. "Some," I said. "Not all. And not today." He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "Then I guess I'd better get used to earning your trust instead of assuming it comes with a paycheck." "Now you're talking like my son," I said. It's been about a year since that day in Marjorie's office. Elaine and I are still together. We garden, we go to church potlucks, we argue over which true crime show is more ridiculous. She keeps an extra sweater at my house. I keep a spare toothbrush at hers. We're not married on paper, but we're committed in all the ways that count. Mark and I are better. Not perfect. He still flinches when money comes up. I still have to remind myself not to read every pause as judgment. But the guardianship talk is gone. He knows my documents are ironclad. He knows that trying to drag me into court would cost him more than he'd gain. Funny thing, once the financial leash was cut, our conversations got easier. We talk about the ball game, his work, the kids' drama. Sometimes he even asks how Elaine is doing without rolling his eyes. The grandkids don't care about wills or deeds. They care that Grandpa and Miss Elaine show up to concerts and soccer games and sneak them extra dessert when their parents aren't looking. I still miss Diane. Some nights I dream about her, and I wake up with tears on my pillow. But now, more often than not, I also wake up to a good morning text from Elaine and a reminder that grief and joy can share the same room. As for the paperwork, it sits in a fireproof box in my closet. I don't open it often. I don't need to. It's not about punishing my son anymore. It's about protecting the man I still am. These days, when I tell Mark I'm taking Elaine out to dinner, he doesn't call it irresponsible or manipulative. He just says, "Have a good time, Dad. Text me when you get home." Amazing how fast some men grow up when you stop letting them treat you like their retirement account.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.